Here in STT2, and today's tutorial happens to be the very first tutorial we're having on the course STT205, Statistics for Management Science. We're going to be taking our theoretical part of the course, just as we know how we do this. There are two parts to the course. We have a calculation part and we also have the theoretical part to the course. So tonight and subsequent classes, we are going to be taking the theoretical part of the course. And as soon as we are done wrapping up with the theoretical part, we can go straight to the calculation part of it. With this being said, let's all straight to it. Okay, so I have Mr. Mustang. Good evening, Mr. Alfred. This is not your class, but it's great. Okay, so I guess others will join as we continue. So let's just go straight into it. Okay, so we have STT205. I think I need to switch my marker. Okay, so we are taking our bearing from the definition of statistics. Okay, so when we talk about that was a thing from the network. I think we are now. So as I was saying, we have the term statistics. Now, when we talk about statistics, what are we talking about? Now, according to what we have here, statistics can be defined as a what? Management tool for what? Making decision. For making decision. Now, this is just one look to statistics. All right. So we are taking it a step at a time. Now, speaking of management tool, we can remember. Okay. So we said something about the financial. Why? Because it helps the organization to what? Make informed decision. It helps the stakeholders, the shareholders, know the financial position of that organization. How do they get to know this information? It is from the financial analysis, the financial position made available and interpreted by an accountant to them. Now, the same thing here, speaking of statistics, all right, statistics also does that, but when we talk about the financial position now, or the financial analysis, is related only to the finances of the organization. But here, statistics covers, all right. Now, statistics here covers a lot. It goes a long way. It is wider. Now, that's why we can say that it is a management tool for making decision. It is very important. I can even say that financial the network is pretty unstable tonight. I apologize for that. Please, let's just Lawrence, it's great to have you on board. Let's just hope the network favors us tonight. So as I was saying, we can make inference that financial accounting is also part of statistics. Now, anything that has to do with acquiring information, collating this information, and helping to make informed decision, then we're talking about statistics. Okay, I think it's in second semester, 200 level second semester, we do the major thing on statistics. And what we're going to be doing this first semester is more of like an introduction, just like where we have STT205, STT206, all right, where we get to do our variance, get to do our mean, all right, standard deviations, all right, when we talk about class boundary, class limit, and the likes, all right. But this is more like an introduction to, or let's say, rudimentary part of statistics. Now, let's underline the fact that, let's get it down, that it is said to be what? A management tool, and it's basically for what? Making decision. Now, scientific approach to this term, we are simply talking about the what? Presentation of numerical information. When numerics are presented in form of informations, okay, facts, about numerics and numerical presentation of information. That's the scientific approach. All right, scientific approach to statistics. Now, it is said to be what? The presentation of numerical information. Presentation of numerical information. Now, although I'll be using financial accounting to do more of example. In financial accounting now, we get to have our trial balance, we get to have our profit and loss statement, and we also get to have, I think, we can also have our bank reconciliation statement and the like. Now, all these accounts, what are they doing? They are telling us that this has been the transactions, although they are more of posting. All right. Nevertheless, they are still numerics. There are still figures there. Now, you can remember the study schedule for this week. The very first set of paragraphs, I wrote some statistical analysis. All right. I made series of references to some statistics, some information that has to do with percentage. All right, informations that is saddled with certain percentage and numerics to what pass across a message. When we say statistics now, we are speaking about facts. Your statements are factual. When your statements are factual, it is supported by statistical information. Now, but looking at it from the scientific approach, we are simply talking about from the managerial approach. Now, we said it is a tool for making decisions. But speaking of the scientific approach to this, then we are talking about the presentation of numerical informations. Okay, numerical informations. All right, and we also call it presentation of facts in numerical form. Presentation of what? Facts in numerical form. So now let's take a step further. Now we have statistics can be seen as a scientific method. Okay, and this method is used for what? Collecting. We said something when we were doing financial accounting as well. We said something about all this. Okay, now it says collecting, summarizing, classifying, analyzing. Now, it is not good enough to collect. All right, you have to, when you are making statistical information now, you are going to give questionnaires. You are going to have a source where you are getting your information from, and this source definitely, that's why we have a sample from a population. There's a population, there's a sample. Now the sample now is a small group from the main population you are studying. So now definitely your fact, when you are making facts, you are cross-checking on all grounds. So your fact and cross-checking, you will have voluminous facts, voluminous information you might have gathered. So it is necessary for you, after collecting, you need to what? Summarize. All right, scientific method. So we've agreed, scientific method that involves what? All right, which is used for what? Used for, we have to collect. All right, you need to go get the information. You collect these informations, then you also need to what? Summarize. Now let's observe the process. All right, the order, the sequence. You collect, you summarize, then you begin to classify. All right, this is what this is. This is what this is representing. All right, this is from this section. This is from this annex. You classify, then okay. So you classify, then you also what? Analyze. Okay, you classify, you analyze, and as soon as you are done analyzing, then you can talk about presentation. We can talk about presenting the information in such a way that we can have what we call thorough, all right, thorough understanding. All right, it is of no use if you have gone through all the stress and you are unable to pass across a clear, a precise, a concise message. All right, it will be very disheartening if you have gone through all this and you cannot make a point out of your statistical representation or presentation, I mean to say. So now we have, you collect, you summarize, you classify, you analyze, then you can talk about presenting. All right, and then talk about presenting. Okay, and when we talk about presenting of this information, it has to what? It has to pass across the message clearly without any, all right, stone left unturned. All right, so presentation of information. Well, basically, you can't go through, if you follow the steps, all right, we get to understand statistics more when we are in our, I think in our 300 level, there's this course we are going to write, research methodology. When you're writing research methodology, you understand more about statistics because you are going to be using a lot of statistical tools, statistical table analysis when you're writing your project in your 400 level. And I think if you don't pass that course in 300 level, you will not be allowed to start for your project in 400 level, because definitely you use a lot of statistical tools when you're writing your project in 400 level. So we have that as that. So now let's take a step further. It says here that statistics are concerned with the numerical part of data. All right. All right. Statistics is more of what we call numerical, concerned with what? Numerical data. You know, we talked about financial accounting. That was more of posting and information. But when we talk about statistics now, we are talking about more of numerical data. Okay? So we have that as that. We've been able to cover the fact that statistics can be a management tool, okay, for making decision, and it's also said to be what? Scientific approach. Looking at it from the scientific view, we're talking about presentation of what? Numerical information. Science is very factual. All right. If you are saying anything, you have to back it up. All right. Objectivists. All right. You find them in science. All right. Very objective. All right. There are no feelings. There are nothing. It's just basically fact. All right. So talking about statistics, I'm talking about facts. So let's take more points on that. Please, as you join the stream, do well to smash the like button. If you are here to subscribe to the channel, do well to also subscribe. And for those of us that might not be aware of the private class, you can as well reach out to me on our official website, www.tutorio.com, right, where you get to see the WhatsApp icon on the top right hand corner. If you smash the WhatsApp icon, it takes you directly to my DM, and you can ask me whatever questions you want to ask me. All right, exams are fast approaching. A lot of resources are made available just to ensure you, all right, do exceedingly well in your forthcoming exams, and you are just a call away. Now let's continue. Let's go back to. It says here that statistics are concerned with what? Numerical. are concerned with what? Numerical data. Okay? Now, example of such numerical data are the heights and weights of pupils in primary school when evaluating the what? Nutritional well-being. All right, let's consider the fact that you are carrying out a research, all right, on the nutrition, all right, or the nutritional well-being of a certain population in a school. You know, in a school, you have primary school, secondary school, you have, I think, primary and secondary school, and even in primary and secondary, you have junior secondary, you have senior secondary. All right. So now, if you want to if you want to carry out a research, you have to have a population you are targeting, and for there's something we call niching down when it comes to there's something we call niching down, but statistically now we call it sampling, meaning that out of the main population there is a concentrated in the population there's a concentrated population. All right, you are niching down to, you are narrowing down to your research to get what? Effective analysis and statistical presentation. All right, so now let's put into consideration that you are trying out a research on the nutritional well-being of pupils, all right, using a sample from the GSS1 junior secondary class, maybe GSS1B. GSS1B junior secondary class can have GSS1 A to Q. I think when I was in secondary school then, I think it was like from A to D or so. 1A, yeah, to public school, so you expect us, yeah, different sets. So now you need to definitely, you put into consideration the name of individual, all right, you get his height, you get his weight, and how he or she eats in a day. All this you'll be using what? Statistical measurement. All right, and you'll be dealing with numerics. So we have that as that. And very quickly, we have the role of statistics. Okay, the role of statistics. Okay, speaking of the roles of statistics, just very few of them. We have analyze. Okay, one of the role of statistics is to what? Analyze the what? Stock level. All right, analyzing of stock level and also record levels. Okay, so it's more of analysis. All right, more of analysis. Right, it's a stock level. It could be something else. It could be minimum. It could be maximum. It could be record level. But definitely, we're doing what? You are analyzing. Okay, and government also use statistics as a tool for what? Collecting data. Whether government, a lot of persons use statistics. All right, we call something data management. Data management science is one very good skill that is also relevant in this time and dispensation. All right, it uses statistics a lot. All right, so it's not just government that uses statistics to collect data or on economic aggregates such as national income, savings, consumptions, and gross national profit. As a student in your final year, you will need statistics too. You will need to do your project. So it's not just government. All right, government is for censor, which is okay. All right, for election now, okay, in this state, so polling booths is ready. So polling booths are effective. We have so voters card giving out. All these are statistics. All right. So let's take from what we have discussed. All right, factual. All right, giving of facts. Okay, we have a collecting of data. From the definition, we collect, analyzing of data, representation of data. All right, using data to make informed decision. All these are the rules of statistics. Also, government uses statistics during census. It's also a point. So now the basic concept of statistics. Now let's take some basic concept of statistics. Okay, I would have wanted us to take this in our other class. Let's just call it up for tonight, whereby we talk about entity variable, we talk about variable, talk about random variable, talk about quantitative variable and qualitative variables, talking about discrete and continuous variable as well. And I think we should take this in our next class so that we can, because we can't definitely finish this tonight. So take it in our next class and we can start and finish it and have all the examples we can get on it. So we'll call it a wrap here for today. So thank you very much, everyone. I believe you all have been able to gain a thing or two into this class. Please, let's do all to keep our notes up to date and send them to the appropriate quarters. This is one way we get to measure how well we are doing. And for those of us who are yet to request for our keynotes, please, the keynotes are available. Very soon, the TMA solutions for exam preparation will be made available. I think something around next week. That's why we are crashing down on too much of classes so we can have sufficient time to make the keynotes available and to also make the TMA solutions questions and answer also available. Thank you very much, everyone, and I look forward to seeing you all in subsequent tutorials. You have a wonderful night rest. Bye.